All right, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling Amy Morin's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Uh,
I have my notes, you have the book.
and together, let's pull out the good stuff for our listeners.
Yeah, those nuggets of wisdom everyone's looking for. I think people really like this blend of psychology and real-life examples.
It's practical, you read it and you're like, okay, I can actually use this.
Totally. So tell me, what stood out to you about Amy Morin's background?
Well, the fact that she's a psychotherapist who went through a ton of personal tragedy really struck me.
Oh yeah, losing her mom, her husband, and then her father-in-law all within a decade.
That's a lot to handle. But instead of collapsing under all that grief, she turned it into a study of mental resilience.
Right. Like, why do some people thrive in the face of adversity while others fall apart?
Exactly. She could have easily wallowed in self-pity, but she flipped the script.
And focused on the habits and mindsets of those who, well, stay strong.
Which brings us to the first thing mentally strong people don't do. And this is from chapter 1, right?
Yep. Chapter 1. They don't throw pity parties.
Oh, I think we're all guilty of that sometimes.
Of course. It's human nature to feel sorry for yourself when things go wrong.
But Morin's point is that dwelling on those feelings keeps you stuck.
Exactly. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink.
So what's the alternative?
Shifting that energy towards solutions. It's about asking, okay, what can I do about this? Instead of why me?
Right, so it's not about ignoring the negative emotions, but about choosing to focus on action.
Exactly. She uses this great example of Marla Runyon, a world-class runner.
Right, the one who competed in both the Paralympics and the Olympics?
Yep, that's her. And she did it all while being legally blind.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what can we learn from her?
It's a testament to focusing on what you can do, not what you can't.
Don't let your limitations define you.
Exactly. Find a way to excel despite them. And this actually ties back to one of Morin's more surprising findings.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that?
Gratitude. It's not just some fluffy feel-good emotion.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Studies have linked gratitude to all sorts of benefits. Stronger immune system, less pain, even better sleep.
Whoa, I did not know that. So basically, being thankful is good for your health.
It's like a mental muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Makes sense. Okay, so moving on to chapter 2, what's the next big thing?
Taking back your power. And this one's all about language.
Language, really?
Think about how often you say things like, my boss makes me feel stressed, or I have to work late.
Oh gosh, all the time. Oh, what's wrong with that? It's true, isn't it?
It might be true, but the way you're phrasing it is giving your power away.
I never thought about it like that.
When you say makes me feel, you're basically saying you're a victim of your circumstances.
Okay, I see your point.
Morin encourages us to reframe our language. Instead of, I have to work late, try, I choose to stay late to finish this project.
It's subtle, but it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Right. You're taking ownership even if it's not ideal.
And speaking of taking ownership, did Oprah's story stand out to you in this chapter?
Oh, absolutely. Poverty, abuse, even losing a child. She faced it all, but she never let those hardships define her.
She took control of her narrative and built an amazing life. Inspiring, right?
Talk about taking back your power. It's a reminder that we're not powerless, even when life throws curveballs.
And I think in this chapter, Morin also talks about forgiveness, right?
Yes. And it's not about letting the other person off the hook.
It's about freeing yourself from the anger and resentment that can eat you alive.
Exactly. And there are studies showing forgiveness can actually lead to lower blood pressure, a calmer heart rate, even a longer lifespan.
Seriously. Wow. So holding on to grudges is literally bad for your health.
It really is. Forgiving others and ourselves is one of the most liberating things we can do.
Okay, let's move on to chapter 3. This one's all about embracing change, which can be tough.
Yeah, change is scary, but Morin uses Judge Greg Mathis's story here, and it's really powerful.
He had a pretty rough start, right?
Yes.
Jail time, even.
Yeah, but he promised his mother he'd turn his life around, and he did. Went from troubled teen to a respected judge.
So what's the takeaway?
Embracing change, even when it's hard, can lead to amazing transformation. He didn't let his past define him.
And he used it as fuel to create a better future. I like that.
Morin actually outlines 5 stages of change to help us navigate it.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So it starts with pre-contemplation, where you're not even thinking about change.
And there's contemplation where you start considering it, right?
Exactly. Then preparation, where you make plans.
Action, where you put those plans into motion.
And finally, maintenance, which is about sustaining the change over time.
That's super helpful. It feels less overwhelming when you break it down like that.
Right, like you have a roadmap.
Okay, on to chapter 4. This one's about letting go of what you can't control.
Ah, yes. And Morin tells this amazing story about Terry Fox. Diagnosed with bone cancer at 18, had his leg amputated.
The Marathon of Hope, right. I remember learning about him in school.
Yeah, slim chance of survival, but he decided to run across Canada, raising millions for cancer research.
So inspiring.
Hmm.
But how does that relate to letting go of what you can't control?
Well, Terry couldn't control the cancer, but he could control how he responded to it.
Right, he focused his energy on what he could do.
Raising awareness, raising funds, making a difference. And there's actually research showing that people who are less controlling are happier in life and have better relationships too.
Really? So all that micromanaging and stressing doesn't actually help?
It can backfire. Sometimes the best thing you can do is accept what's you guess and focus your energy on what you can influence.
Okay, chapter 5. What's next on Morin's hit list?
The trap of people-pleasing. This one's relatable, right? We've all been there.
Or totally. Trying to make everyone happy all the time.
It's exhausting, and it can actually disconnect you from your own values.
Morin has this story about Angela, who would change her personality depending on who she was dating.
Talk about a chameleon, always trying to be what others wanted.
So what's the antidote to people-pleasing?
Making choices aligned with your own number one values, even if it disappoints people.
It takes courage, but it's worth it. Better to be true to yourself than to be a puppet for others, right?
Absolutely. And in Chapter 6, Morin dives into taking calculated risks.
Calculated risk, so not just jumping off a cliff blindly.
Exactly. A lot of us are paralyzed by the fear of failure, but Morin argues that calculated risks are essential for growth.
Okay, so how do we distinguish between a good risk and a bad one?
She gives a set of questions to ask yourself. Think about the potential costs and benefits, how it aligns with your goals, if there are alternative options.
And also, what's the best and worst that could happen?
Right. And maybe the most important question, how much will this matter 5 years from now?
Oh, that's a good one. It puts things in perspective. And speaking of risks, I love the story about Albert Ellis.
Wait, the psychologist who is terrified of talking to women?
Yep, how ironic is that?
So what did he do? He went to a botanical garden every day and forced himself to talk to 130 women sitting alone.
Answered, oh my goodness, he's brave. How did it go?
Well, 30 of them walked away immediately, but of the remaining 100, he managed to chat with them.
And even asked him out on dates. I admire his persistence.
Only one said yes, and she stood him up. But the point is, he faced his fear head on.
And realized it wasn't as scary as he'd imagined.
Exactly. Sometimes we have to walk through the fire to realize it doesn't burn us.
Great analogy. All right, chapter 7. What's up next?
This one's all about not dwelling on the past, ruminating on negative stuff, or romanticizing the good old days.
Either way, you're stuck, right? Not fully present.
Exactly. She uses the example of Winona Ward, who had a pretty traumatic childhood filled with abuse.
Ah, that's awful. But she didn't let it define her life, right?
Not at all. She got a law degree and founded an organization to help families dealing with domestic abuse.
Turned her pain into a force for good. That's incredible.
And Morin gives some great advice for letting go. First, give yourself permission to enjoy life. And now.
Don't let those old wounds dictate your present happiness.
Second, find the lesson in the negative memories. Even the tough stuff has something to teach us.
And finally,
forgiveness. Forgive others. Forgive yourself. It's like hitting the reset button.
okay, forgiveness seems to be a recurring theme in this book. It's about letting go of what's weighing you down.
Right. Now, in Chapter 8, Morin focuses on learning from our mistakes. And we all make them.
Oh yeah, nobody's perfect. But it's how we handle those mistakes that matters.
Exactly. Mentally strong people don't see mistakes as failures, but as opportunities to grow.
She talks about Roland Macy, the founder of the Macy's department store empire. His first store was a total flop.
Bad location, hardly any customers. He even tried a parade to drum up business, but it rained so hard nobody showed up.
Oh, that's rough. Poor guy. What did he do?
Learn from it. For his next store, he picked a prime location in downtown New York City. And, well, you know the rest.
And ironically, now we have the famous Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, all because of a failed parade.
It's all about turning those oops moments into learning experiences.
Morin recommends asking yourself, what went wrong? What could I have done better? And what can I do differently next time?
Great questions. Now, in Chapter 9, we get into something we've all experienced. Envy.
Oh, that green-eyed monster. It can be so destructive.
It is, but Morin encourages us to shift that envy into something more productive. She uses the example of Milton Hershey and H.B. Reese.
Wait, as in Hershey's chocolate and Reese's peanut butter cups?
The very same. They were rivals in the candy business. Reese even worked for Hershey for a while.
And then started his own company in the same town. Talk about competition.
But instead of feeling threatened, Hershey actually supported Reese.
Really? That's surprising.
He even let Reese use Hershey's chocolate in his experiments, one of which led to the Reese's peanut butter cup.
Wow, that's amazing. So they turned rivalry into collaboration, and both their companies thrived.
It's a reminder that celebrating others' success rather than resenting it can open up unexpected opportunities.
Okay, so what's next on Morin's list?
Chapter 10 is all about perseverance in the face of failure. This is a big one. It's inevitable, failure, that is.
Oh, I know it all too well.
We all experience setbacks, but it's how you respond that really matters.
Right. Are you going to let it knock you down, or are you going to get back up?
That's the key. Morin brings up Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb. Do you know how many times he failed before getting it right?
I'm going to guess. A lot. Inventions usually don't just happen overnight.
Thousands of attempts. He even had some interesting flops along the way.
Like what? Give me the juicy details.
Oh, things like the electric pen and the ghost machine.
A ghost machine. Okay, I have to hear about this.
Well, basically, it was an attempt to talk to spirits. Obviously, it didn't work out.
But it shows his persistence, right? He wasn't afraid to try new things, even if they sounded a little crazy.
Exactly. Those failures didn't deter him. They were just stepping stones on the path to success.
You only fail if you stop trying, right? But talent's got to play a role too, right? You can't just will yourself to be a genius.
Well, there's a ton of research showing that people who dedicate themselves to a skill for 10 years or more can reach really high levels of expertise.
Regardless of their natural talent.
Pretty much. This applies to all sorts of things: chess, music, athletics. So it's not just about being born gifted, it's about putting in the work.
Wow, so hard work really can beat talent. That's inspiring.
Absolutely. It means we all have the potential to achieve great things if we're willing to put in the effort.
Okay, what else does Morin talk about? What's next?
This one might surprise you. Solitude.
Solitude, like being alone. But we live in such a hyper-connected world. Aren't we supposed to be constantly plugged in?
It's easy to feel that way.
Yeah.
But Morin argues that embracing quiet time is actually crucial for building mental strength.
I get it. It can be hard to disconnect, but honestly, when I do force myself to step away from screens and social media, I feel so much better.
It's like a mental detox.
And there's research to back this up, right?
Absolutely. Studies show solitude can lead to renewal, rejuvenation, and deeper self-awareness. It's a chance to tune out the noise and reconnect with yourself.
Sign me up. But how much alone time are we talking here?
You don't have to become a hermit. Even just starting with 10 minutes a day can make a difference.
10 minutes. I can definitely manage that.
Think about it. Journaling, meditating, or just sitting in stillness and observing your thoughts.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness and meditation lately. Is that something Morin talks about?
Definitely. She emphasizes mindfulness, bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment. And if you want to take it a step further, there's meditation.
Okay, meditation always seemed a bit intimidating, but I'm open to it.
There's research showing that regular meditation can actually change the structure of your brain.
Wait, really? Just by sitting and focusing on your breath, how does that work?
It can lead to improvements in cognitive function, emotional processing, all sorts of things.
No way. What other benefits are there? Spill the tea.
It's been shown to help with anxiety, depression, insomnia, chronic pain. It can even improve heart health.
Okay, I'm officially convinced I need to look into this. So what's next on Morin's list?
Chapter 12 tackles the idea of entitlement versus contribution. She talks about the dangers of raising kids with a sense of entitlement.
Like the world owes me something attitude.
Exactly. It can lead to a lack of empathy, responsibility, and resilience. And she uses the example of Ethan Couch, the teen who killed 4 people while driving drunk.
Oh yeah, the affluenza case, that was everywhere.
His defense was that his wealthy upbringing prevented him from understanding consequences. A tragic example of what happens when entitlement goes unchecked.
Definitely makes you think. We need to teach kids accountability, to focus on what they can give, not just what they can get.
Exactly. Morin contrasts this with Sarah Robinson's story. Diagnosed with a brain tumor in her early 20s, but she was so moved by the struggles of other cancer patients.
That's incredibly compassionate, especially considering her own situation. What did she do?
Founded Sarah's House, a place near the medical center where patients and their families could stay comfortably.
Wow. Even while battling a terminal illness, she was thinking of others.
She passed away just a year and a half later, but her legacy lives on through Sarah's House. A powerful reminder that we can all make a difference.
Okay, we're on to the last chapter. What does Morin say about impatience?
It's a struggle, right? Especially in today's world, where everything's so fast-paced. Instant gratification is everywhere.
I feel that, but real change takes time. Morin cites research on New Year's resolutions, which are notoriously hard to keep.
Oh, yeah. Gyms are packed in January, but by February, it's back to normal.
Why do we give up so quickly? What's the deal?
Well, one study found that 25% of people abandon their resolutions after just 15 weeks. But in a later study, that number dropped to just 1 week.
Wow, so we're getting even worse at sticking to our goals. What's changed?
Morin points to a few things. We set unrealistic expectations, underestimate the effort required, and get discouraged when we don't see immediate results.
So patience is key. But how do we cultivate patience in a world that's telling us to go, go, go all the time?
It's tough. But Morin has some tips. First, set realistic expectations. Understand that change takes time and effort.
Okay, so no more aiming for the moon right out of the gate.
Second, be flexible with deadlines. Don't set rigid timelines that set you up for failure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
Celebrate the small wins. Don't overlook those little victories. They keep you motivated.
that's a good reminder. Sometimes those small steps are what keep us going when things get tough. So we've covered a lot of ground today. I feel like my brain is bursting with new ideas.
I know, right? Morin packs so much practical wisdom into this book. It's like a roadmap for a stronger mind.
And I think one of the most encouraging takeaways is that mental strength isn't something you're just born with. It's a skill you can build.
Yeah, like learning to play an instrument or training for a marathon. It takes practice, but you can get better.
Which makes it feel way less daunting, like, okay, I'm not there yet, but I can work on it.
Exactly. It's about identifying those areas where you want to grow and using the tools Morin gives us. She breaks it down into actionable steps.
And speaking of tools, anything in particular that resonated with you?
Honestly, the research on gratitude and forgiveness really hit home. It's crazy how much those things can impact not only your mental state, but your physical health, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was a big one for me, too. It makes you realize how connected everything is. Mind, body, the whole shebang.
Totally. We got to be intentional about cultivating those positive emotions.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, I'm curious, of all the 13 things Morin talks about, what really stood out for you?
Good question. I think for me, it's the whole idea of not letting the past hold you back.
Ah, I love that one.
We all have baggage, right? Regrets, mistakes. But it's about choosing to focus on the present moment.
And using those experiences to create the future you want.
Exactly. Turn those lemons into lemonade, as they say.
So true. Now, dear listener, I want to throw it back to you. Which of these 13 things resonated most with you?
Yeah, what hit home? And more importantly, what's one small step you can take today to start building your mental strength?
Is it practicing gratitude? Reframing negative thoughts? Maybe carving out some time for solitude and reflection?
Whatever it is, remember that you have the power to choose how you respond to challenges.
You can build resilience. You can create a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. A huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Amy Morin's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do.
Hope you found it insightful.
And empowering.
Remember, building mental strength is a journey, not a destination.
Be kind to yourself along the way.
Celebrate those small wins.
And keep moving forward one step at a time. Until next time.